Sure. Hello, I am Mel McCormack. I will be presenting on security for IoT. As a disclaimer, this video is solely for the use of educational purpose and that I am not liable for any damages that could be caused using these demonstrations. So what is IoT? IoT, also known as the Internet of Things, is defined by IBM as the concept of connecting any device so long as it has an on-off switch to the internet and to other connected devices. The IoT is a giant network of connected things and people, all of which collect and share data about the way they are used and about the environment around them. Many people use IoT to create smart homes. People can control items in homes with their phone built-in sensors that will allow them to use their voice or other functions. People can install smart lights to turn lights on and off without using a light switch. They can change how the light appears through adjusting colors. Televisions can be controlled with the phone or voice. Ovens can offer additional features beyond baking and roasting. It can offer consumers possible recipes to try out based on personal interests. However, IoT is not only for the home. IoT can be used in many other fields. For example, IoT can be used in agriculture, cities, in the medical field, in industry, and in the military. For example, in agriculture, farms can use the IoT as a form of watering their plants. Sensors in the soil can determine the contents and tell the sprinklers when and how much to water. It can also be used to view possible plant diseases that are found on the leaves. In cities, IoT can be used to adjust the lights based on traffic. It can also be used as a way of energy management so cities can reach their green goals. In the medical field, doctors can monitor the patient's hearts while the patient is at home using a heart monitor connected to the internet. This also gives patients who have diabetes the chance to evaluate their glucose without typical pricks by using a sensor attached to their arm. In the military, drones can be used to surveil the battlefield and give enemy wearables. It can also be used as a means of security. For example, drones are now being used to attack drones that could possibly enter safe areas. In other industries, like Amazon, IoT can be used as a way to manage inventory, select items to be sold and shipped, and through other vast possible choices of machinery. It is predicted that there will be 75 billion IoT devices by 2025. However, when cybersecurity comes into the picture, it is a mess. Although it is a mess, it's quite important to make sure these devices are secure. It is considered a mess because of many devices' dependence on batteries and their constraints in memory. Batteries can often be a problem because this will only give a certain amount of power before it quits and possibly forgets what is stored. In the memory side, it does not have the capability to store and implement important crypto systems like ECC and RSA. Because it has a small memory, it prevents patches to be applied when it comes to bugs that are found later on in its production. And if it does have the ability to store additional data, oftentimes these devices will have to be disassembled in order to reach the memory to give it the valuable updates. And it's not just the devices that are under attack through, it is also the gateways and clouds where these information are stored and distributed. For example, I'll be listing some possible cyber attacks that can be used on IoT devices. First of all is battery removal. By simply unplugging or detaching the battery, the device can be seen as rendered useless. And this can become as complex as using a DDoS attack to overwork the device so that way it ends up draining its battery without being there. Because it has a small memory space, many times it doesn't install valuable patches, so criminals can just use that missing the attack that the patches are supposed to protect, and that because they're not there, they can just simply enter that way. Because they are able to enter through missing patches, attackers can then apply their own code through software injection to the device, so that way it can either gather material data that they will be able to use, or render the device useless, or in a way that it will help them in further cyber attacks. These gateways and clouds can be attacked through man in the middle, so the attacker can eavesdrop between the sensors and hear what they are reading to gain valuable data on possible victims. There's also the issue where radio interference can occur that prevents devices on IoT from communicating with each other and prevent them from sharing the valuable information. As another additional example is the Murari botnet, which is a botnet that was used on IoT. Botnets are defined as a collection of devices that are connected through the internet and that are used by a third party. The Murari botnet was initially used to attack a popular Minecraft server that prevents DDoS attacks. This Murari botnet code was later shared on to the public, so that way others can use it for their exploitation. This leads to many concerns, but there are possible solutions. One solution is by looking up vulnerabilities of your IoT devices through a search engine known as Shodan. Shodan crawls the internet checking for data. These crawlers operate throughout different countries to prevent geo-blocking. As it crawls, it executes these steps. First, generate a random IPv4. Second, select a supported port at random. 3, attempt a connection. If the connection is established, collect the banner. And 4, repeat indefinitely. I'll be showing some clips of me using Shodan to gather information. For example, I first look at devices that are found in San Diego. And I can see different IP addresses that are connected to devices that are found in San Diego. By clicking into it, I can learn about the open ports and other general information that the search engine has discovered through its crawlers. For example, it also can show me web technologies and displays the banners that received through its crawling. I can also look up different systems like Apache to see what devices are using that. Many of these here are labeled as honeypot and cloud devices. And by clicking this one, I can see the open ports, general informations, but also it can give me possible vulnerabilities that the devices have. This one does have a lot because given that it's considered a honeypot. Next, I'll be showing what happens if I ask the search engine to look for screenshots. By this, I can see into the cameras and see what the cameras are seeing. For example, this is most likely a toll booth in Korea. And this is a park in the United States. You can find some interesting stuff like this garage in the US. And others cameras that are typically for security. By typing in this phrase, I can see what devices are considered web surveillance. Again, many of these that are directly pulled up are honeypots. Let me find more thing that's interesting. By typing in NCR port, I can look up possible ATMs that are connected and that were discovered in Shodan. For example, I found these devices that have the NCR port, which are often connected to ATMs. I have one final one to show, which is that you can look up items through the vulnerabilities. However, this is only for certain subscribers, as well as finding screenshots of industrial control systems, which often are connected to the IoT. For example, I can see what are the settings for some of these IoT devices. Given that you can find many different items on Shodan, this gives admin the ability to determine what are possible gaps in the security and figure out solutions to protect them. Note that as though I did record this, you can look into devices and find items that don't have password protections or use default passwords, so attackers can simply enter and use that device for their means. But it is another solution is that there have been some laws that have been created in order to provide some protection. The first law I will mention is the IOT Cybersecurity Improvement Act that was enacted on September 14th, 2020. This act orders the National Institute of Standards and Technology, also known as NIST, to build guidelines for the private sectors that have contracts with federal agencies, and the federal agencies. NIST will work alongside experts in the field of IoT and cybersecurity to provide guidelines on IoT devices to ensure the protection of agencies and their contractors. These guidelines will then be reviewed on a 5-year basis and updated. The ETSI also introduced European standards for IoT. ETSI EN 303645 was introduced on June 30th, 2020. This creates a standard for IoT and serves as a baseline for cybersecurity. This also gives a basis of future certification schemes that will be required for IoT devices. Thank you for listening to my discussion on cybersecurity and the Internet of Things. Thank you.